talk for a minute? Boy, I want to know your name. Can we talk for a minute? Boy, I want to know your name. Last night I saw you standing, and I started
Welcome to the Thought Brothers. It's March 5th, 2025. I don't know if there's anything going on in the news, but we'll check it out. We'll start. We got the host here. We got the financial analyst. We got our social media guy, CJ. We got our researcher and our historian, Mr. Spivey. I will tell you this. I was out of the country last week, and at least 3 people came up to me to talk about the podcast. Mm-hmm. All 3 talked about the Kendrick Lamar podcast and how that panel broke it down. These were all people who were our age and older. And they just thanked me. They just said, hey, thanks for doing that show. They said, CJ and those college people, they broke it down, broke the myths. One guy said I had to call my 48-year-old daughter long distance to try to figure out what was going on. So, Carlos, we're going to let you kick it off. Go. The clock is set.
All right. Hey, guys, check this out. Before we get down to what's happening, because I know Republicans are too happy, Democrats are too mad. I know it's Trump news every 5 minutes. Hey, look, before we get to that, I don't want to forget about something that's very important. I believe myself and CJ have daughters. Mr. Spivey, do you have a daughter?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he does.
Okay, Gary, CJ, son, you have a granddaughter though.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. It's Women's History Month, man. Look, we gotta pay some tribute to the sisters who have helped all the men become the men that we are. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give you in my 10 minutes 3 sisters that have just made an impact on the world. This is the positivity we need. This first sister, they're going to be from 3 different professions, okay? One will be from acting, one will be from athletics, and one will be, how do I say, a little bit of everything, including poetry, civil rights, all of it, okay? We got the month to go, so I'll have many more. But I wanted to bring a smile to everybody's face because this first historic lady, when she would walk in a room, it would just get quiet because she was so beautiful. When she would walk across the screen, it would be silence in the theater. You know who I'm talking about, Mr. Spivey. You know who I'm talking about, Gary. CJ probably don't know who I'm talking about. But if you don't know who Pam Grier is, come on, man. Hey, look, we need some positivity. Man, look, everybody just stopped. The room just got quiet. Everybody just started smiling. The beauty was just this flowing, right? And I was just taking a look, and you know, we think about great actresses, and maybe she'll never win an Oscar, okay? I think she got pretty close for Jackie Brown in the late 90s or something like that, okay? But her body of work has gone over 50 years. We talk about actors and actresses that come and go. Over 50 years in Hollywood? I don't even think she makes a residence in Hollywood. I think she got a place up in Colorado or something, a ranch or something. But to have a career in Hollywood for 50 plus years, come on, man. I think her most recent movie was like a Pet Cemetery or something movie, or like Part 5 or something in 2023. And she's constantly making appearances on Law and Orders and all these different TV shows, etc. But I think that, obviously, just like other great entertainers, everybody has their mark. She almost could leave her legal name behind and just be known as Foxy Brown. I mean, so for all the people who don't know who Pam Grier is, I would just say, please take a look check her out on Wikipedia. Check out some of her movies. Check out the ones that she's known for. Like I said, Jackie Brown was in the late '90s. That was one that she was, I believe, she was nominated for an Oscar for. I mean, as far as the black exploitation movies of the '70s, I mean, it can just go on. Coffee, Foxy Brown, Big Dollhouse, Women in Cages, The Big Bird Cage, Black Mama, White Mama, Scream, Blackula Scream, The Arena, Sheba Baby, Bucktown, Friday Foster. Hey, look, and then Quentin Tarantino's crime film, 1997, was Jackie Brown. There was another movie that I thought was actually a pretty good horror movie that had Snoop Dogg in it, and it was called Bones. It came out in 2001. Pretty crazy, but I think when we talk about people who have given us a presence on the screen, Pam Grier is definitely one of the ones that makes history. I believe her cousin, I don't know if it was first or second cousin, was Rosie Grier, a fearsome foursome of Los Angeles Rams in 1960s. And I believe he also ran down the assassin of Robert F. Kennedy in Los Angeles in 1968.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I just want to give a shout out to her. And like I said, it's a time in Hollywood where, you know, Halle Berry had a nice run. Angela Bassett still has a nice run. But if you get past those two names I just said, we're looking for women to control the screen and especially a few sisters to control the screen. And nobody, I think they're all going to be compared to Pam Grier for her presence. So that's my shout out to Pam Grier. Let me give you two more before I turn it over to you guys for comments. I want to go with from the world of, again, this person was so powerful. Her career, okay, she published 7 autobiographies. Okay, I'm checking it out right now. 3 books of essays, several books of poetry, and is credited with a list of plays, movies, and television shows spanning over 50 years. She received dozens of awards and more than 50 honorary degrees. Look, if a brother get 1 honorary degree, you are doing over 50 honorary degrees. Come on, man. You know, we talking about Maya Angelou. Woo! Yeah. Come on. Hey, look, she has a quote. I'm not even a Maya Angelou fan, but I respect her body of work and her being an icon, right? She has a quote that says, people may not remember what you say, but they will remember how you make them feel. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Of all the things going on in the world today, I don't think that will ever go out of style as far as that quote. Unfortunately, she passed away. Wow, it's been 2014.
3 years.
Like 2014, she passed away. Didn't seem like it had been that long.
No, it doesn't.
But yeah, well respected. Anybody who doesn't know who Maya Angelou is, again, look her up, check out her work. Just outstanding. We're talking about excellence between being an actress of excellence with Pam Grier to being a poetry of excellence. We talk about civil rights excellence. Just everything that Maya Angelou brought to the table, fantastic. And you know, my love of sports. I can't go without naming the GOAT. Of course, my thing cut out here, but when you think about a sport that has been dominated by white females, and then you get 2 sisters from Compton to come along, Venus and Serena. Okay, check this out. Venus is like the most successful champion at Wimbledon or something. Like she's won so many. She's won more titles at Wimbledon than Serena has. Okay, which is weird because Serena has won more titles in the Open era than anyone else in tennis history. She is regarded as the arguably the greatest tennis player of all time. She has held they call it the Glam Slam. Or I guess you can call it Grand Slam as well, where you win every major tournament. Was it Australian Open, French Open, US Open, Wimbledon, back to back to back to back. And she's done it not only in singles, she's done it in doubles too for her sister. Yeah. Like, this makes you scratch your head. Like, it's hard enough to win the Super Bowl one year, right? It's hard enough to win a team sport championship one year. And they say, you know what? when we say world champion in football, yeah, we say world champion. I guess we don't give the Canadian Football League too much respect. But anyway, we say, no, this is really world champ. We're going from Australia. I'm going to win that. Go to France. We're going to win that. Go to US Open. We're going to win that. Oh, let me go back to England. We're going to win that. Oh, yeah, you know what? When I get done playing individual, I'm going to win it in doubles. I mean, just the dominance, and then her ability to be a businesswoman off the court, and also to, with her marketing, incredible. And, I think a lot of people had given her not a lot of the respect she needed because, there was some people hating on Serena, something she's too masculine, she's too this, she's too that. Let me tell you something. When Serena actually looks pretty impressive in some of her tennis outfits. And when she's not wearing her tennis outfits, she looks even more impressive. So impressive that I believe she's married to a billionaire right now that's trying to buy Twitter or X or whatever. So Serena, you're doing your thing. Keep doing your thing and keep displaying excellence. So much respect and love during Women's History Month to Pam Grier, Maya Angelou, and Serena Williams, with a special shout out to Venus, because Venus, I mean, it's hard. You didn't think you'd be the second best tennis player in your family after all those Wimbledon titles, but hey, what can you do? But she's awesome as well. So that's my take. Any thoughts or feedback on those three great ladies to get us some positivity?
I got some. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Pam Grier is actually featured in an article on the homepage of blackmeninamerica.com.
All right.
With author Mark Green. And let me tell you something. She looks good. Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Took the words out of my mouth, Gary.
That
and
is
if I'm not mistaken, she's about 75, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's a good 75, and to the left.
That's an excellent 75.
Yeah, is Lynn Whitfield, actress Lynn Whitfield. But Pam Grier is she's on the homepage of an article featuring celebrity talent agent Mark Green. So shout out, shameless plug to Mark.
Yep. So thank you to all the ladies who've helped make the world great. As the month goes on, Gary, Mr. Spivey, and CJ, I'll do my best to try to highlight these ladies. And that's a way I want to make sure I honor your wives, honor your daughters, honor your granddaughter, Gary, and honor my daughter as well and wife as well. So all the ladies who make a difference in our lives. But that's what I got. And I guess now I'll pass the baton to Mr. Spivey, because Mr. Spivey, I'm sure you're going to tell me how you feel about that, what was that, State of the Union address or whatever last night.
Well, I like to comment on the three women that you talked about, because Gary took the words out of my mouth. Pam Grier has stood the test of time. I mean, when I think of Pam Grier, I think of women who just appears as though they don't age. And Pam Grier is one of them. And when I said don't age, I'm talking about the complete woman. You got a lot of these actresses and that were prominent back in the 80s. And when you see them now, it's hard to even recognize them because of the change in face, the change in structure. Pam Grier, when you see her, it's Pam Grier. And you made a quote about Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was very instrumental during the civil rights movement. She was out front during the civil rights movement. And she also made a statement one time where she said, when someone tells you who they are, you should recognize. And that was something that I talked about last week on the podcast when I was talking about politicians and, how when their mouths move, they're always lying. And Donald Trump wasn't a politician. He was a reality star. And one of the things that I do say about him was he told you what he was going to do. He said the first day, I'm going to be a dictator. People didn't believe him. So, it goes back to what you were talking about with Maya Angelou. When someone tells you who they are, you should recognize. And the guy told you who he was. We had a couple of podcasts and even had a Republican, African-American Republican on the podcast talking about Project 2025. It was a playbook for what's going on right now. And, you asked me about last night, the State of the Union. One of the things that I'll just like to talk about briefly with the State of the Union. As you know, one of the Democrats got put out of the State of the Union. His name was Al Green. He's from Texas. And he kind of went against, from what I understand, what the speaker, Jeffries, had told them to maintain decorum and, to more or less purport themselves as Democrats. And so he was put out. The thing that troubled me about that was, and it goes back to a lot of stuff that CJ talks about with their messaging. My feeling on that was when he was put out of the State of the Union address, every Democrat in there should have got up and walked out.
Yep.
The only two people that left, from my understanding, was Bernie Sanders and Jasmine Crockett. As CJ keeps talking about a lot of times on the show about messaging, how do I want to put this? What you're dealing with now in the Republican Party is not the old Republican Party. You're not dealing with John McCain. You're not dealing with any of the old Republicans like Chuck Robb. You're dealing with Republicans who don't want to negotiate, who do not want that olive branch that Democrats always want to pass across the aisle. And it's basically, you got knights fighting a dragon. And so if you're not dealing with the same Republican Party that we dealt with in the past 20 years ago, then the Democratic Party can't operate the same way they did 20 years ago. You got to fight what is coming at you. And people just don't realize what's going on right now. And it troubles me because this milquetoast loser attitude that the Democrats are having. And every time they do something like, we go low, when they go low, we go high, that type of thing, it's making the Democrats look weak. And Republicans capitalize on weakness. And I'm really concerned because I've said before that I don't know how long it's going to be before the cap it boils over, the pot boils over. But to give you an example of some of the things that I'm talking about is, I got some notes here, and it's really just mind-boggling. I got upset when I was doing it. Donald Trump is going to slash Medicaid. You have over 71 million people on Medicaid, including millions of Trump voters. And on top of that, you have 75 workers that Trump is planning on getting rid of, and it's going to be within the next few months. 220,000 federal employees that have less than 1 year on the job. What he's doing is he's going into these agencies, and anybody that's a probationary agent, a probationary employee, he can fire them without cause. Because if you have not been on the job for over a year, you have no civil service protection. So he can just come in and say, your work is not up to par, and he can fire you. Here's an example. Veteran Affairs, 1,000 employees with less than 2 years on the job. Now, keep in mind, you get rid of 1,000 employees at Veteran Affairs. Veteran Affairs, the employees that got rid of, these were the people who was working on cancer treatment, opioid addiction, prosthetics, and also burn pit exposure. Now, last night, during the State of the Union, he held up a kid who had cancer. So he wanted accolades for that. A lot of people don't know. He cut the funding for cancer research. Okay, the Defense Department, they have 5,400 probationary workers. He's put a freeze on hiring, and 5 to 8% of the civilian workforce will be reduced. Department of Education, 39 people he got rid of. But that's not the kicker. He got rid of 39 people. He has 169 contracts that they did not renew. And on top of that, cut the budget $900 million. People need to understand that these cuts that he's making, this $900 million, he's getting ready to cut, I think CJ said $880 million from Medicaid.
Billion.
And he's huh? Billion
Billion.
from Medicaid. What he's doing is he has to make these cuts in order to give the top 1% their tax breaks. Another example. Now, this one is really funny. He got rid of 405 people who were identified as probationary employees. 135 of them were fired. And these were cybersecurity, infrastructure, security agency people. These are the people that protect our security. Now, this one, a lot of people won't be too upset about. 1,000 probationary agents in the middle of tax season from the IRS. So that means the IRS is not going to be on top of their game like they normally. But you heard people talk about Elon Musk is closing down agencies that were doing investigations on him. Donald Trump got rid of 17 inspector generals. And out of that 17 inspector generals, several of the watchdog ones were appointed by him when he was in office in 2017. He comes in now in 2025 and he gets rid of them. And the Department of Justice, I don't even want to go into that. He's planning on, he fired more than a dozen employees who worked criminal prosecutions against Trump. And he got rid of all of Jack Smith's special prosecution people. You know, it's something that I go back to on a regular basis that I've heard people talk about. It's amazing how people voted for Donald Trump. Latinos voted for Donald Trump. A lot of Black people voted for him, but a lot of white men and white women voted for him. And you hear these people say, how can somebody vote against their own interests? As I said last week, this stuff Donald Trump is doing is nothing new. Truman did it with Dulles, and McCarthy was the hatchet man for Eisenhower. I'm going to read you a quote, and this may help you to get your head around why people would vote against their own interests. Lyndon Baines Johnson said something years ago, and I'm sorry I keep taking you all back to history, but history always will repeat itself. Lyndon Baines Johnson said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pockets. Give him somebody to look down on, and you can empty his pockets. And that's exactly what Donald Trump and them are doing. They are picking their pocket. $800 billion in Medicaid, and it's going to affect 71 million people, and a large majority of those 71 million people are going to be people who voted for him.
Yep.
I'd like to know your opinion.
That's, I mean, you didn't even touch on about half of the terrible things that Trump's doing. Like, so you didn't even talk about food
TJ,
stamps.
I was running out of time, brother.
yeah, he cut the
But I
food
knew you were
stamp-
gonna pick up on
We
it.
extend the show for Mr. Spivey.
Yeah, I say, I mean, it's been pretty destructive. Even I underestimated the speed in which they would be able to destroy and loot the treasury. Because, like you said, this is what they're now calling the robber baron administration. All the fraud police are gone. They're trying to take care of all enforcement methods, and as you said, it's just an aggressive transfer of wealth that we're about to watch happen from bottom to top.
Yeah.
So, on top of all those things, we have the Supreme Court ruling that has now weakened the Clean Water Act's limitations that now allows raw sewage discharge into our water. 5-4 ruling. So corporate power is going to be out of control under this Trump administration because there's no resistance. I have to get back to the Democrats, as you stated. There's a viral video right now on Twitter from the Serbian parliament, from the opposition party, launching smoke flares at the opposition, you know, doing all types of crazy resistance. And then they cut to our Democrats holding up small signs as their resistance against the man that they called Hitler, the one currently absolutely destroying our federal government with a hacksaw. And like you said, we had one principled Democrat to walk out and actually highlight, hey, this guy's going to destroy Medicaid by $800 billion. Does anybody else want to bring that up now? So he was the only person with a modicum of courage, while the rest of them sat there and matching outfits that they couldn't even coordinate correctly, and very, very tiny, polite signs. To it's almost a joke at this point where the party is not serious. Like I am not being hyperbolic in saying that they need to dismantle this party, or most of the Democrats need to just be absorbed into the Republican Party. I don't know if you saw that their response to the speech, but they sent out a person to praise Ronald Reagan and to come out and basically say, "Hey, we're moderate Republicans. Trump's crazy, but you know, we love Reagan and we love capitalism and military might." Like, it just totally ridiculous response, and it's something that you would expect from the Democrats. Like, it's deeply unserious. You mentioned Hakeem Jeffries. He might be the worst Democrat I've ever seen at his job. And I'm not being high. We've had a bunch of terrible ones. And even Nancy Pelosi, who people didn't like, had some fight to her, had some attitude. But Hakeem Jeffries, literally, as Mr. Spivey was saying, he told the Democrats their strategy is unilateral surrender. Let's just wave the white flag. Trump's going to do whatever Trump's going to do, and we have no leverage. That's a quote from him. We have no leverage. What are we going to do? We have to. And then he's going to embrace people like Eric Adams, one of the most cartoonishly corrupt mayors and unpopular politicians we have in the country. So the Democrats, they have no direction. They have a few people with a spark, like you mentioned, like Jasmine Crockett. They don't put her in front of the cameras nearly enough. They're going to trot out Chuck Schumer or some 80-year-old boring Democrat. And again, it's a messaging problem, but it's not a messaging problem at this point. It's a problem that they take money from the same people that they're supposed to be resisting, and they can't. And their donors have told them to stand down. It's very clear that there are donors. They take money from Tesla. They take money from SpaceX. They take money from Bezos. They take money from all the people who are running the government now. Trump's, oligarch robber baron administration are just their donors. So the Democrats are having a hard time fighting back when the people that own them are saying, don't fight back. Like, we're going to get the tax breaks that we want. We're going to get big business running wild the way we want. So we're really in a no-win situation here. And we're at a point where Elon Musk, now the richest person in the world, can affect the outcome of any election that he chooses. And he's flaunting that at any point, that he can flood the opponent of any politician that he doesn't like with as much money as that they like, and basically affect any political race. So now the consequence of making bribery legal in America, this was the end result. Now, as I mentioned before, we have Supreme Court rulings to pollute our water, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have unlimited corporate control, and it's just a new level of fascism and slavery. Elon Musk has come out publicly this week, and basically, I can bring up the exact tweet, but basically saying the whole point is privatization. They're going to destroy the government and privatize everything. Amtrak and the FAA, guess what? That's going to be Starlink now. And Tesla, they're going to run that. And they're going to destroy every function of the government that still works, including your social security check. Grandma's check's not going to come. Those food stamps, anything the government was doing to help people will be destroyed. Guess what? We have a trade war that's going on with our closest allies and everyone else. We're going to have blanket cost of everything going up in this country. They said an $80,000 cart immediately overnight now costs $100,000 under the Trump tariffs, because they're waging war against Canada and Mexico for ignorant, arbitrary reasons. The reason Canada's coming out doing a whole press conference saying your government's doing this to you. We have no idea why Donald Trump would legally cite that it's because we're letting fentanyl flood into the United States. Less than 1% of fentanyl coming to the United States comes from Canada. Canada is not flooding in illegal, dangerous immigrants. They're not coming from the Canadian border. And most of the fentanyl, as is rightly pointed out, is trafficked by American citizens on both sides of the border. It's an American drug problem from our American drug policy. And that's mostly what the fentanyl problem is. So to cite that, to launch tariffs on our two closest allies for literally no reason, is a reason why many people think Trump, his goal is to crash the economy on purpose. There isn't a lot of logic to his moves. There's no strategy to it. But when you crash the economy, guess who comes out on top? The ultra rich. They swoop in the chaos, in the distraction, just like when the housing market crashed under Obama. Guess who came out on top? The ultra wealthy. Guess who? Nobody went to jail. No bankers went to jail. Nobody that actually crashed the economy went to jail. But guess who got the bailout? The people that did the crime. They got the bailout. And it's going to be similar this time. We're going to be crashing the economy in various industries. And the only people who are really going to benefit from it are the people who swoop in at the top, the Elon Musk, who's going to reroute all those contracts to his own companies. And until we get an actual resistance party, and not the party that holds up little signs. And as you said, no matter what happens, they're gonna be the classiest party that does nothing. There's really going to be no opposition to this. And even as the Republicans do incredibly unpopular things to the point where they came out and said they won't even do any town halls anymore because now the Republican base has figured out, wait a minute. I'm a veteran. Wait a minute.
Right.
I'm DEI. I didn't know as a veteran I was DEI. I didn't know as a woman, a white woman, I was DEI. I didn't know. So now that the Trump base, the MAGA base, has realized that they're being screwed over too, it's too late. Trump's not running for re-election. He ain't running for re-election. He don't care now. Oh, you're mad at Trump now? He's gone. He's gonna line him and his buddies' pockets for 4 straight years with no resistance from an opposition party, and he's gonna be up out of there. That's JD Vance's problem. That's Vivek's problem. That's Don Jr.'s problem. Whoever is the next Republican, and they're gonna end up whooping whoever the Democrat is because they have nobody. The Democrats' most popular politician by a mile is still Bernie Sanders, the guy who twice that they showed they would not allow to win. Like they hate him more than they hate Trump. And they showed that twice. And they said they would rather run the cadaver of Joe Biden than allow Bernie Sanders to win an election that he was going to win anyway. So that's where the Democrats are, and they won't allow a successor to Bernie. So we're looking at what we're looking at. I don't know what to tell you guys. People asking me, what should we do now? We should have done it 2 elections ago and not put up Joe Biden and these neoliberals. We shouldn't have been embracing being the Republican light party. Now the Republicans run to the far extreme, basically Nazi right. They're throwing up Nazi Sig Heils at speeches at this point, and the Democrats are saying, "Hey, we'll be the party of Reagan now." So now we have the party of Reagan or the party of Hitler. That's our choices now in American politics.
Yeah.
Thanks, Democrats.
Wow.
CJ, it's funny. I was doing some research, and the two most important, the most popular polled politicians at this present time is Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Those are the most popular.
And it
But
shows you.
I'm looking at something right now, and you'll call me to research it. I'm trying to do some research on the steps that are taken to create a police state, because I think some of the things that Donald Trump is doing right now is, he said he was going to be a dictator from day one. And I think the steps that he's doing with those appointments of the CIA director, DNI, the FBI director, and some of the other appointments he's made, he's gradually doing things to try to eventually create a police state. Because one of the things they do when they try to create a police state is you got to break the citizens down. And what he's doing with breaking them down is they're losing their jobs and firing people. And when you get these people to this point where they can't pay the rent, they can't pay the car payments, they're going to have to pull these kids out of these private schools. And as CJ just said, the MAGA Republican congressmen and senators have cut out the town halls because their base wants to strangle them. And what they are doing to try to deflect that, they are saying that the reason that they're cutting them out is the Democrats are placing people in there to oppose them.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just happening, in steps. Donald Trump is already criminalizing protests against Israel all over college campuses, and any speech that goes against Israel. Now they're passing legislation that you can be debanked because of that. They can now freeze your bank accounts if you say "Free Palestine" now, or if you do anything against Israel. So that is a direct encroachment on the First Amendment. We're talking about criminalizing free speech and protest, and it might start with this one country and this one issue, but that's once we're criminalizing protests, as you said, there are going to be a lot more protests coming up as people can't afford their bills, and we continue to send billions and billions of dollars to a genocide in Israel while we're cutting SNAP and we're cutting vital services here. So there's going to be more protests, and they're just setting the stage to be able to crack down in a very authoritarian way on those protests.
As I said last week, the straw that breaks the camel's back is that $880 billion cut to Medicaid. because you got 77 million people that's going to affect. And now you're going to cut the Medicaid for the grandmothers and their parents and all, and you're going to take their jobs and they don't have any income. I'm telling you, it's going to be a hot summer. That's all I got to say. And this man has did this, I think he said in 40 days. Think of what he's going to do in the next 35 to 40 months.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
I mean, is it me? Is the system just that broken? Like the whole purpose of having Congress and the Senate is so one man. I mean, the president is the most powerful person in the U.S. and in the world, but that's why corporations have boards. So the one board member can't just say, "I want my brother-in-law to be the vice president." These things are in place for a reason. Did we just, as citizens or the people we elect, just not understand the laws? Like, how is he just walking in doing whatever he wants in 40 days? And this is just 40 days. He's like literally doing whatever he wants, and he's pretty much getting what he wants on a consistent basis. Like, how come no one can stop him? Like, is our system just that bad and he's the only one who's been able to expose it? I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that? CJ, I'd like to hear from you because you seem to know more. You're great. I think you're great at politics. I mean, what's your opinion on this? Because no one else has been able to do it, and he just walks right through and he does it.
Nobody else was willing to do it. That's
Right.
that's it. Like the system has
Amen.
been that broken. Donald
Amen.
Trump is the most corrupt, most brazen, most shameless person that we've probably ever seen in public sphere. He is willing to do what most, Ronald Reagan would do it, all the other Republicans do it, even like Obama and some of the Democrats do it, but there's a air of civility over it. There is some complexity to it where there's plausible deniability where Trump is just going in and saying, I'm corrupt, the system's corrupt, we're going to expose the corruptness, and I'm going to use that corruptness for my own ends. And like I say, it's not, the system has been eroded by things like Citizens United. When you allow bribery in your system, then money is going to eventually corrupt it. Now, like again, when they have the richest person on the planet on their side, that can sway the system. Now those guardrails aren't as strong anymore because the corporations really control our government. Like it's not that the people don't have the control anymore. It's the corporation. So now wherever the corporate money is where the control is going to be. And now even with the judges are trying to do, the checks and balances to stop them. They're just ignoring the judges and saying, all right, we're going to go as
Right.
far as we can. Are you going to physically stop us? Until somebody comes in here and physically stops me from looting the treasury, I'm going to keep doing it. Or the Democrats have the backbone to really step against us? They know they don't. They know that's a fake opposition party that is owned by the same people that pay them. So they know the Democrats aren't going to do anything. So it's like, okay, if no one's going to stop us, yeah, they can wag their finger and say, you're not allowed to do this. But until someone stops me, I'm going to keep doing it. And then again, and at the same point, Elon can replace the judges. He says, okay, the judges go against us. We'll get rid of that judge. He has enough money to affect any political race in this country that he feels like it. So at this point, the system really is that broken. And Trump is just the first person corrupt enough to take full advantage and to say, I don't care about the image of America. I don't care how it makes us look. I'm just trying to line my pockets. It's about me. He's the most selfish president. He might be the most accurate face of America we've ever seen. The open cruelty to his policies, where some of them don't have a point other than cruelty, the anti-trans stuff, some of the hatred of Mexicans and certain ethnic groups. Like some of the point is cruelty, what he's doing to poor people. Like Mr. Swivey says, people are going to die from this Medicaid, from being kicked off Medicaid. There's going to be catastrophic results from some of the damage that he's doing. But it doesn't matter. This is just a path that we were always on. This is just an accelerated version of it.
CJ, his lawyer told you that, 2 years ago? He said Donald Trump is a gangster. He told people that he was a gangster.
He was talking to Zelensky like they were in a dice game. Like it was crazy. Like he owed him money. This is like we got ignorance on the world stage. And imagine if Obama was talking to a world leader like that, the things that they would say. Imagine if Barack Obama had 14 children from 4 different baby mamas like Elon Musk, the things that Republicans would say about him, like how hypocritical that they are. Not to mention Trump's talking about his new gold cards now. He's talking about selling citizenship to this country for what, $5 million per card. So instead of a green card, you could skip to the front of the line, get you a gold card, get you straight citizenship, skip to the front of the line. And he's talking about we can bring in 50 million new people and we can bring in rich people from white countries is basically what he's saying. So it wasn't that we had too many immigrants. It was that we had too many broke immigrants. We had too many poor immigrants. He said, get your broke asses out of here. And we got to bring in the big money into this country. So it's not an immigration problem that he drummed up fear for his supporters for. It was just a brown poor people problem. We got to get them out of here. They're the problem, but we can bring in these rich immigrants from wherever else. So it's pure hypocrisy from Trump, but he is the greatest con man of all time. Like you said, there's no bigger encapsulation of the con man that Donald Trump is. As Mr. Spivey mentioned this earlier, having that kid and using that kid, that little black kid as a prop for the little kid who had cancer at the same time while dramatically cutting cancer research and deregulating the chemicals that gave that kid the cancer in the first place.
Right.
And deregulating many cancer-causing chemicals to go in our food and our water. And it shows you the showman that he is. It shows you that the people around him are smart. And then the optics and the messaging that they do, because those MAGA people aren't going to look deep into the budget and see that he cut that stuff. They're going to see that photo op and say, look, he isn't racist. Look what he's doing. He's putting on that black kid. He's doing that. Not looking at the atrocious policies that are a direct attack on people.
And let's not forget he's talking about putting his face on a $100 bill and replacing
Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah. Don't forget that too.
Hey, our friend Omar Tyree was correct. Talking about the Demolition Man, where they had the movie where it was like in the future and it was all a peaceful, nonviolent, no crime society. And all of a sudden somebody showed up who wreaked havoc. And the only way and they didn't know what to do. You know, it's true. And they had to unfreeze Sylvester Stallone, who was an old school head-banging law enforcement officer to save the day. And I thought about Chris Rock. He had said something similar a few years back. He said that this country has worked so hard to get rid of bullies. They got all these school policies about bullies and laws and job policies. You can't have no bullying. He said the problem is we got rid of all the bullies. And now a real bully showed up named Trump, and we don't know how to handle him. I mean, it's literally the only way we're going to, see a change in favor of the Democrats is that they're going to have to do something different. Sitting there, like you said, like CJ, you called it, uncoordinated outfits with their little crazy signs. And yes, Mr. Spivey, you called it. They should have got up and followed that gentleman from Texas right out of there. That would have made the biggest statement instead of sitting there flipping signs. I don't know, like they're at a what's that, like an auction or something?
Auction.
Yeah. That did nothing for me. They have no emotion. And like I said, if Nancy Pelosi wasn't 85, I'd say put her back in charge. I mean, literally, the first time around with Trump, she stayed on Trump every day. She was in the news trying to do something, okay? It seems like nobody's doing anything. I don't even really understand, can we develop a legitimate third party? Because the second option is not working out too well for us right now. And the way it looks like Trump has things going is that anybody who requires or depends on the government for anything is just going to be short. Okay, like you said, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. He's gonna go up to Social Security at some point. Maybe I'll never see it in my lifetime. I don't know what's going to happen. So, and obviously he's setting the party up to follow right behind him. And I tend to think that he's going to find a way to get another term. I mean, he's got the Supreme Court on his side, so he's got Congress and the Senate on his side. I believe he is going to find a way. He'll be a president in his 80s. As long as he still has energy, that it's possible this could happen. So I don't know, man. I hope there's a young superstar out there in politics that has some answers and can rally some people, because we need it right now.
Well, my only response as we close out the show, have we given you enough to think about in this show? You got the facts and the data, that have been put out there. And this is just within the time that we had. There's so much more, but hopefully you've gotten from this show enough data. You can do your own research and figure out how this is going to impact you, your family, and your friends, because people are starting to wake up, but they're finding out like Mr. Spivey said. He told you, and now he's doing it. So we are the Thought Brothers, and until next week, we're going to be dealing with this and some other issues. Take care of yourselves and take some action. We are out of here.
Good night.
Take care, folks.
Think of it every night. How I just couldn't